Welcome, everybody. Our next session here, last session for this event, is Phil Tully telling us about Consolez. So over to you, Phil.
Thank you. Consolez was developed by Mike McIsaac, what many of you all know. Mike developed this, offered to present it at the VM workshop, and then went on vacation. So I agreed to work with this. The wonderful, there it is. Consolez is a tool that lets you use to take a look at ZVM consoles from a browser. And then run some ZVM commands. It sounds like a simple thing, but we had a very specific business need for it. The VM support team is split up. Our team does the Linux support and the ZVM support, but TCP/IP is managed by our ZOS team, and they had a retirement action take place where most of their team left, and actually all of their team that knew ZVM left. So they had a rather thin layer of ZVM skills, and they were responsible for the TCP/IP stack. So it was really impacting our team in terms of time, trying to provide them access to the logs and the consoles of ZVM. So Mike decided to take a look and see if he can provide a way of giving them access to consoles. Now, the ZVM team typically uses getcon from Ops Manager, and where we can issue commands, but doing the same thing for the ZOS team was a little more difficult, especially given the size of our environment. And for those of you who don't know the size of our environment, we have two production facilities and a test facility, a combined total of 15 Z15s. We have 60 LPARs spread across those data centers. We have 925 plus IFLs. We have almost 250 terabytes of memory. We have multiple multi-lag vSwitches in every LPAR. In production, we have at least two. In dev, we have at least one, but sometimes we have more depending on what we're doing engineering side. We support SLES 11, SLES 12, Red Hat 7, Red Hat 8. We're now all ZVM 7.2, and we also manage about 12,000 Mod 27, Mod 54s, and about 50 terabytes of eDev mini disks. So providing access to consoles and so that people can do support was something that we needed to help with, because we do have very little support from the storage management side as well. Please, if you have questions, just stop me, because I can't see the chat, and I just talk fast. On every one of our ZVM LPARs, we have an engineering Linux guest. It's used only by our team. We use it for functions. Many times it's for debugging actions on other Linux servers. But one of the nice things is it allows us to put tooling to interconnect LPAR to LPAR. So Mike made use of these engineering servers to make use of this, to build this Consolez. So he deployed the Consolez code onto each of our Linux servers and our engineering servers across all 60 LPARs. So it allows us to use a single node as the browser and communicate through SSH and SCP to all the other LPARs. So there's a series of scripts, the spool console, catcons. They do the various functions built into the script. I think the key to this whole thing is I will be getting to a demo of the product, the tool. The nice thing he added in was running CP commands. We put in some limitations on what commands can be issued for especially our network team. A little better controls than we have. They're limited, very limited in what they're allowed to do. It builds a structure internal to a tree structure in the Linux server. If you notice at the top, it's the CDL ENG ZSO1. That is the engineering server in the LPARs ZSO1. It's a very simple naming convention, and there's one of these in every one. But the nice part is you pull back the same data structure across all 60 LPARs. Simple configuration file where you're going to put your storage, where you're going to what admin user is defined as, and also defining your different various environments. We have multiple LPARs that are split across production and non-production. We also have since this is running on the Linux side, we use net groups, and we're in a very specific net group for our and the network admin team is in another net group. So we're the 1041. They happen to be 1042. I'm going to. I think this is all available. It's open sourced. It's all available on GitHub, and it will be presented. I'm going to do a demo of it because really, quite frankly, that's the best way of seeing how it is. So this is actually something else we use. We use something called Guest Finder that we use as our internal CMDB for VM. I'm going to log into console data. It prompts me for my login password, and it brings up a list of every single console that's currently available to be seen. So you'll see we have appears all these VLBs are our lab systems. P1s and V1s, they're now data center 1. V2s and P2s are in our data center 2. Kind of simple naming. And then at the bottom here, we have these are our pure engineering LPARs at the bottom. So if I just wanted to look at what was happening in the TCP/IP stack of VLB3, it happens to be the top screen, I can just open this up and look, and it pulls it right up. And this is the current console of that virtual machine. If you wanted to see what was going on there, if there was activity on it, it's very easy. If I wanted to refresh it, I doubt it was old. Go to the bottom. There it was. It was the last time it was loaded. If I let me go back to home. More importantly, if you had an issue where some server, you got a report that you wanted to see that a user reported that a server was having a problem. While we were on the call, I got a call about this particular server, which was actually pretty interesting. It uses our CMDB, this guest finder, which if I submit a query, it tells me what the host name is, what the VM user ID, what LPAR, what Ethernet. I can go and look in here what the IPL, how often it was IPL'd and when it was IPL'd last, what information about that is. We have a lot of information that we store. So Mike made use of that. And so if you put the host name in the top and you look for it, it uses the finder to locate what LPAR it was on, and it pulls that console. And you'll see that this particular LPAR is current. This particular Linux guest was just rebooted. I can tell it because it's the last thing any of our servers do is it spools 2 files out, which feeds Guest Finder. But the interesting part about this is right now it's running SLES 12. And the reason somebody asked about it, and I'm going to scroll through this, is it was running Red Hat a little while ago. So this actual server is going through a in-place upgrade from SLES to RHEL, and the application team wanted to verify that they could back off if they wanted to. So this is showing the pulling the logs as fast as you can possibly see. And the nice part is you can search. Scroll to the bottom, and you can search through the log if you wanted to see an IP stack. Now, the problem is this is going to search all consoles, so I'm not going to really. It's just too much. I'm going to go. There's almost too much information unless you're really looking for something to pick. Now, one of the nice things is you want to do some CP commands. You want to do a CP command to a particular guest. Let's say you wanted to do a command to all LPARs that are in that CPU. Rose CPU 3 is the third CPU in Roseland, New Jersey. So I'm going to issue a CP command. QT. Very simple. So there I get. It went out to all 4 servers in, there's 4 LPARs in Rose CPU 3, and issued the CP command. This is really nice if you want to try to issue commands to, you had to bring a chip it off on a particular machine. I can just select the CPU, issue the CP command to all of, it'll get issued across all of them, and no longer having to reach out. So and some of the other things, what you see here are the consoles that are currently have copies. So that means right now, by default, since this was developed originally for the TCP/IP team that manages that, you'll notice that it's all the TCP/IP stack type servers. But if I went into VLB3, which is one of our development labs, I can look at any of these other. It'll give me these servers that are no longer. Now that did not have a console before saved, and it went out and pulled the current console, and here it is. It's a relatively fast interface. It's using SCP and SSH, and again, it's a tool that Mike wrote to fill a need that we had. One of the things I'd like to bring up about this, and it's something that someone else on that Bill and I have brought up to the Open Mainframe project, is providing tools like this a place for them to drop and to be available to other people. I know the IBM has a download page, which is very functional and very useful, but some people don't want to put their code out there. The one thing that we really don't want to happen is people's tools like this to get lost or to just drop out and people not know they have. So recently we started a project in the Open Mainframe project to start collecting these tools, not just collecting them, but really identifying where they're located and telling people, if you want to leave them there, that's fine, but will allow us to at least identify them and point to them and let people know they're there. And if you don't have, if this code itself is running on your server or running under your desk in your basement, and you want a really more consistent place, we're going to look to build a place so that you can store it and keep it so that people can use it in the future. And if they wish, they can contribute to it. That's all luckily I didn't have a long one.
What was this written in, Phil? Mostly Rex?
Mostly Bash and some Rex. It runs on Linux.
Oh, okay.
It's running in the Linux side. So it's using Linux to go and pull the console files from all of our consoles are stored off, and
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
it
I mean, he has to have any privileges for that?
well, yes, the server that's doing this is going to have, I believe, B privileges, because of
Yeah, okay.
pulling it. But again,
Yeah.
this engineering server that we define it doesn't have class A, but it has everything else, because the only team that uses is my team, and usually it's to debug and to recover Linux guests that have, if they've ever go bad. So
Right, so you basically maintain it too.
oh, it's the only users that log into it is my team. So we do all the patching, we do all the maintenance. Yes, that's really my my presentation.
So Phil, this was driven really for the need for the ZOS folks, right? Or the folks that were kind of looking at things. How did they react to this? Were they surprised that they could do these things, or
I think they were surprised they got it so fast.
okay?
Quite frankly, the challenge was trying to teach a group of people that really is ZOS. And we're all relatively new to ADP because the team had literally retired and the
Right.
whole team was gone. So now they were learning ZOS. They were all ZOS people. They were learning ADP ZOS, and now by the way, you also have to support 60 VM LPARs. There was a little pushback on that. So this was a lot faster. And it was also a lot easier for certain members of my team, Tom, having to walk them through how to log on, how to do Ops Manager, or how to log into TCP main. It was just a lot of, it saved a lot of angst.
Right.
Hey, Phil,
Yes,
I just asked a question directly. So you don't need to log on to that Linux server or to VM. You're accessing everything through the web interface, right?
correct.
Yeah.
I
So
do have to.
that's what makes it a lot easier for them, right?
They do have to log into, I don't know if you saw it. I might have been
Yeah.
pre-prompted. I had to log in with my LDAP ID to that Linux server.
Right.
And you have to have the authority in that Linux server to do it. So
Okay.
not everyone can get into it. But you know,
Okay. So you have to be given access, credentials for that Linux server, and then you can get to the URL.
correct. And Consolez limits to which net groups are going to be using it. And that's how we had to put, some several. I mean, the fact that you're going to be able to do some CP commands, we needed to put some, you had to be blocked by the LDAP access.
Oh yeah, makes sense. So that's good that you got that level of control.
And if you look in the presentation, the location, if you want to download this, and the GitHub is there.
Phil, I got one question for you.
Go for it.
Why do you mention my name once in a while?
Because you're the one who had to hand walk the ZOS people through how to do it.
I thought I heard you mention Tom.
Exactly.
Yeah, why is he throwing my name under the bus there?
No, we were trying to save you from being inundated by one person.
Pull him out from under the bus.
Now I know.
Exactly, trying to pull him out from under the bus. He was already under the bus.
Damaged.
Again, this is a new tool. Mike wrote it, but I think, and Bill, if you want to chime in or not, we're going to start looking to see if there's other tools out there that people use that aren't really, don't have a strong place to hold them. and the open mainframe project's looking for a place to just maybe index them and make sure people can get to them, so as you know they're out there. I found stuff from Rick recently, the last 2 years, from Rick Troth, which I use all the time. And a lot of people won't find the code. So we want to make sure some of these tools that people develop, people throw out, make it available to people, don't get lost because, when they retire or when the server under their desk falls over. That's it.
Right, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Phil. There's a couple different things going on in that space. Actually, some of the things that have been hosted on the VM workshop, Rich has been doing a lot of work to work on those tools and make them more available too. So if folks are interested in that space and want to help with that, as we try to sort out, where all things should be and how we manage that, we're looking for more people there. Right. And also if there are things in terms of you've always wanted to write a tool for VM and share it, but you weren't sure how to go about doing that, let us know and we'll try to work through that. I know there's questions that come up about all sorts of things in terms of the packaging of them, licensing and so forth. But I think these types of things are important because we've been open on this platform for a while. We just don't really necessarily call it that. So,
yes, I've been working on getting some of the really old VM Workshop tools tapes. They used to call them tapes. Put up on the VM Workshop, and I have 85 and 86 and 91 and 96. I think are all done, but we can certainly take more. And there are some people that have contributed tools that have their own special page. Mike Walter is one. Mike Poyle from IBM, Hersley, he's another one, and there's a bunch of others as well. It's not really important where the tool goes. It can't hurt to put them in multiple places so that there's multiple ways to get them if needed. So we encourage anybody that writes those tools to send them off somewhere. VM Workshop is a place. The Open Mainframe Project, if they're going to host tools, that's certainly a good place for tools as well.
Yeah, and it was the idea that we just don't want to lose them. They've written them, people use them, or people don't know they exist and they can solve a problem that you might have.
Exactly. I actually found some gems going through the 85 and 86 tapes. There was some old dogs out there, but there's some gems that I wouldn't mind trying too, frankly.
Exactly. The Rick Troth, his CMS curl, it's a very basic curl command, but it works like a champ to pull data off of that CMDB tool that we have.
Yep.
It's just pulling data out of that, which is all in SQL, and it's just it makes things so much easier. And so anyway.
Yeah, so Sam had mentioned in the chat here, don't forget the CBT. There's another group on the Open Mainframe Project, which has been working on the CBT tapes stuff. And yes, the VM download page. I confess that recently we were working with a client and they were looking at some things to do with the test idle management in the ZVM scheduler. And we talked about playing around with that and modifying it. I said, yeah, we're going to have to write something that does that. And then somebody pointed out that there was a tool on the VM download page from 2004 that did that already. So even I'm guilty of not knowing everything that's out there. So a lot of good stuff going on here. Keep the cards and letters coming if you're interested in helping with that.
If you have any questions about this particular product, if you go to the GitHub, there's a way to reach out to Mike, or my name's on the front of I can always forward it out to